Absolute Emperor. Simple 100-point battle, and this time we are doing the pure 100-point battle. I've already set up the terrain and diced off for who gets to choose which side, who's the attacker, who's the loser. We're fighting over this town right here. We're calling this the Battle of Smoll Village. And unfortunately, what we've got here is the Austrians versus the Russians. The Austrians won the die roll to pick the side, and of course they pick the side that puts them closer to the village. The rosters are very simple. The Austrians have a total of 3 veteran infantry that you can just barely see here, and then they have 1 seasoned heavy cavalry who they've opted to put on the left flank here. If we pull back and just kind of drop in a little bit, you can see, remember, each of these bases is 2 inches, so we may need to kind of swing them around that way so that they're within 4 inches of their corps commander for Elan. So this is 20 points worth of Elan for the commander, and then 80 points worth of troops. For their part, the Russians have a much better mix, I think. In addition to a commander with an Elan of 4, they have 1 Lancer cavalry. So you see these guys, all these figures come from irregular miniatures, and here are these kind of, they look almost like light cavalry, but irregular calls these Cossacks. So we're going to use the Cossacks as Lancers. Lancers operate as line cavalry, except they get an extra d6 on the charge, and if they are forced to withdraw and they get pursued by cavalry, then they actually have to re-roll 1 unsuccessful hit because they're not so good anymore. We have 1 artillery piece, and then the Russians have a seasoned infantry and a conscript heavy cavalry over here on the right. Again, the commander has an Elan of 4, 100 points even, 20 points for the commander, 80 points worth of troops, and of course, as an Elan of 4, we can only have 4 units there. Anyway, the math just works out nice and tight. Now, I should point out, the points for these Austrians versus Russians are different, likely because old Boyd Bruce, the author of this rule set, does provide, there's a lot of replayability in this game. He provides nationality special rules for Austria. For example, until 1809, their corps commander radius is only 6 inches. Now, I'm playing half scale, so we would call that 3 inches. Infantry cannot use attack column formation. It doesn't get invented or implemented by them until 1810. And then heavy, or I think 1809, and then heavy and line cavalry reroll 1 failed 2-hit roll in combat on the turn they charge. They just don't have quite as good a cavalry. As far as terrain is concerned, it's very simple. This represents a kind of low hill. It is rough going on top. And then we've got a whole bunch of woods, and of course the roads. And the pond over here, the small lake, is uncrossable. The Austrians set up first, the Russians set up second. Now, because of that, we've made a little bit of an adjustment to the deployment here for the Austrians. This infantry can move 6 inches if they move entirely along the road. But we're not going to move them first. We're going to go over and take a look at the Russians. So here's what the Russian movement looks like at the end of their movement phase. As I said, they deploy second. The artillery is still limbered up. They can move 6 inches. Infantry can move 6 inches along the road. They recognize that they're going to get to the big village second. These guys moved up 6 inches. They don't want to get caught. We got a plan. We're going to try something with these guys. You do not need line of sight to be in command radius, and as you can see, both of these units are within 4 inches of the commander. So let's take a look at how the Austrians respond. In this game, you have to choose whether you're going to activate from right to left or left to right. The Austrians started on the right, their own right, and moved these guys up. In column march, infantry can move 4 inches. These guys move 6 inches, hence the extra 2. They don't have enough movement to get into the built-up area just yet, and again, 3 inches. And this squadron, you get a free formation change at the start of every turn. The heavy cavalry here have formed a squadron. They moved up 4 inches, and that's where they have to halt, because this guy, I think he could probably move up a little further. We're going to put him right there. And then that's going to be the end of the first turn. Nobody's in charge radius, so we move on to turn number 2. I don't know how many turns this is going to take. We're going to play that by ear. We'll probably do the same thing we did yesterday. we'll play 10 turns. These guys have an advantage. The rule book for small games like this says just play 8 turns. I like to have random lengths, so let's do this. Let's play, and we found yesterday that 10 was way too long. So let's do 8, and we'll roll a d6 at the end of turn 8, and on a 6 we're done. Then on the next turn it'll be on a 5 or 6, and then a 4, 5, 6, and that kind of gives us a random turn length, anywhere between 8 to 14 turns, which should be enough. So the next thing we have to do is determine our initiative. The Austrians will be rolling the yellow die, the Russians will be rolling the green die, and whoever gets the high roll gets to move second. Do I even need to say it? I don't think so. Regulars know what I'm talking about. The Austrians now get to move second. They get to see what the Russians are up to before they go. The Russians have moved their conscript heavy cavalry up in squadron, which they have to do in order to keep their lancers in command radius of their boss man. Should be obvious what they're going to do. The Russian line have moved into, line, and the cannon have moved up. Now, the cannon moved another 6 inches, so they can't do anything else this turn. The Austrians now have to respond. And of course, this unit is going to move into the village. That's going to be a tough nut to crack. Meanwhile, this unit is going to go ahead and use their column march. They're pretty safe back here, to move up like so. And we'll kind of swing them around that way, which they got to do. So technically, these guys go first, then these guys. Then these guys are going to go ahead and form line and get ready to attack. But the question is, do they want to face this unit and deplete them first, or do they need to swing around to protect against these guys? That's a tough question. And in fact, I think what we're going to wind up doing here is we're just going to move them up 1 inch and just keep them straight on like that, so that they have, maybe we'll just kind of turn them a little bit so they have some capability of swinging to their left if they need to. Then comes the question of these guys. Remember that everybody has a 2-inch buffer. So if we bring them into line and move them up 4 inches, they have to stop right here. Man, are they looking forward to charging these guys. The problem is, so first of all, there's no shooting in this phase. Shooting range is 2 inches, except for this cannon, who has a much longer range, but of course, this cannon is still limbered up, so they can't fire. So we got to look at what's going to happen over here with these charges. The Russians declare that they are not going to charge either of these units. The Austrians would like to charge this conscript heavy cavalry. At that point, the Lancers decide, I am going to try to countercharge, and the conscripts are going to evade. When you evade, you fall back 4 inches to here, facing away from the enemy. So this squadron has now opted not to fight just yet. But both of these boys have to decide whether they're going to fight. We're going to roll, again, the green die for the Lancers. They will be charging on a 4-up, and a yellow die for these seasoned, seasoned, they're both seasoned, which means you only move on a 4-up. Neither side has decided to charge. Neither one had the gumption. When both units elect not to charge, then nothing happens. There simply are no charges. Oh, these guys are actually halted. So to represent halted, I like to use a little puff of white smoke to remind me that they need to recover during the next command phase. That is the end of the turn. So now we are going to roll for initiative once more. High roll gets to move second. The Austrians get to move second. The Lancers here are not going to move. We're going to bring these guys around, and we'll bring them up. And so what we're going to do is we're trying to get both of these units in at the same time. The other thing we could probably do if we wanted to, we could put them in column march and swing them wide, since these guys are fairly evenly matched. That might be worthwhile. In fact, what we'll do is we'll swing these guys something like this. Let's do that. During the command phase, this halted goes away. Let's bring these guys, put them in march this way. And we're going to move them 8 inches around to, how far can they go? Now, our corps commander here is going to move up to here, which means the furthest they're going to be able to get is right about here. Otherwise, they fall out of command, and on the next turn, they'll try to move back in. But we do still have these guys, and it gets a little tricky on this side. Because if we move these guys up, they're going to start getting blasted by 2 different units. So instead, I think what we'll do is just bring them up a little bit. We don't want to get too close. In fact, let's go ahead and measure. Well, first we're going to bring this guy up so that they have room to maneuver. In fact, we can bring them right over to here, which, that does buy our cavalry just like that extra ½ inch. Then these old boys, they want to stop. Well, I guess they're going to get in a gunfight with these guys. Yeah, they want to stop right about there. And then our cannons are going to move up. Now, if they can get to within 3 inches of here, so if we bring them up to here and then limber them, on the next turn, they're going to be able to start firing canister into this town. And we do have one more unit. Let me just spin this. One more unit of infantry who can move up. They can move 4 whole inches. Ooh. We got to start with these guys, don't we? So they can move up to 4 inches. Where's our bait corps commander going to go? I think we're just going to put him right here, which buys us basically that much space. We can put these guys in line and then move them 2 inches in any direction. But the problem is this is their fire arc. So if we swing them around something like this, we want to make sure that our fire arc includes this old boy right here, right? But we'd really like to be outside of that, but within 2 inches. So the question is, they were right about here. If we want to get to within 2 inches, we're going to have to swing around like this and present our backsides to this guy. Of course, you can't get closer than 2 inches. So this way, I think the Austrians will be able to start shooting at these cannons and maybe drive them off before they can get off around. It's a risky gambit because these guys, they're pretty darn quick. Be that as it may. And then again, these guys, these Austrians, will move to within 2 inches and kind of pivot a little bit so that they can start shooting here. Now, that does open them up to fire from this unit as well. But so what we're essentially engaged in at this point is a firefight here. Although, yeah, and shooting comes next. So we've got a shot here, this infantry firing at the cannon, and we've got a gunfight here. Let's do these guys first. We'll work from left to right, or from right to left as we're viewing it. These guys are going to roll 4 dice against the artillery, and they are veterans, so they are hitting on 3s. They're going to get 1, 2, 3 hits, and that's going to be enough. Let me double check. They are disordered. They can take 4 hits. Artillery battery. This artillery battery is still in the fight. The next fire that we need to... Why is this 4 here? This 4 should be on this commander. All right, so the next one we need to do is these 2 units firing at each other. Of course, the yellow dice are going to be for the Austrians. And it's the Austrians are hitting on 3s, so they get 1 hit. The Russian infantry is seasoned. They're hitting on 4s. They are going to get 2 hits. So if we put it like that and like that. 2 hits in shooting causes them to become halted. They can still fire, but they cannot advance. Next, we have to work out our charges, and this one is easy. These infantry like the fact that the Austrians cannot countercharge them. So the Russian infantry will go ahead and charge them. This may be a mistake, but it does give the Russians one extra die on the attack because they charge. The result is going to be a total of 4 dice versus 5 dice. The yellow dice are still hitting on 3s, and the white dice are still hitting on 4s. This time the Austrians score a total of 3 hits in melee, and the Russians score 2. So our total wound count goes up to 4 and 4. And in melee, the resolution is 3 hits causes an infantry unit to recoil a half an inch and become disordered. So we'll pull these guys back, and we're going to drop a red marker on them. And then we have to work out this charge and countercharge over here. Once again, we have a situation where we got to roll 2d6. The rolling a 4 or better means you did charge. They are still eyeballing each other with this hill on their flank and acting very boring. That is the end of the turn. So we move on to the next initiative phase. And this time the Russians have it. And of course the Russians say, yeah, I want to see what you're going to do. Oh, you know what? We probably had one more charge in us, didn't we? On that turn, these Austrians wanted to charge here and combat that unit. The Russian cannon only rolls 1 die, and on a 4, he gets nothing. The Austrian infantry are going to roll 5 dice, and they're hitting on 3s. They are going to wipe him out. So that cannon, bought a little bit of time, but that's about it. That will be the end of the turn. Then the Russians get to decide what they want to do, and we're at risk here. So we have to bring these guys back, don't we? We're going to about face and bring them up to. Well, no, we're going to put them in line. And we can still move them 4 inches. 1, 2. We'll face them this way, or something like that. So I think they can't be shot, but if these guys try to charge here, they will be able to charge them. So we'll have to see how the Austrians respond. Oh, during the command phase of this turn, the halted unit becomes healthy. The disordered unit simply becomes halted. So they will be able to shoot and fight, but they cannot countercharge. I think that is it for the movement. We have to decide what we want to do with these guys. And what we're going to do is we're going to move them 2 inches to here. Wait a minute, they have to stay oh, see, now we get into the weird wrinkles of, we had another shot here that these guys could have shot. But I don't know. I just forgot. What are you going to do? We want these guys to move up and scare this cavalry by... All right, so what we're going to have to do is swing them around something like this. Do we have enough space? So there's 4 inches between them. We actually don't, do we? You can't move within 2 inches. So this is all covered by these guys. I guess we could come around to here. We need to stay. Does this guy? Oh, the build-up area is only 1 inch. So really, I think that's all they can do. Now the good news is these guys can't charge this turn because you got to charge straight ahead. And because these guys are within 2 inches, I think everybody's just going to wind up blasting the heck out of these guys. In fact, that's exactly what's going to happen. That's it for the Russian movement. They only really... Oh, and the Russian general's elan goes down to 3. because he lost the cannon unit. And I think that's it. I think we can roll for... Now, these guys are still rolling 4 dice against this unit. And this unit is rolling 4 dice against them. So we'll see. Again, the veterans are hitting on 3s. They get 2 hits. And the Austrians are going to bop up this number up to 5 because the Russians scored a single hit. And that's going to be it for that shooting. And then we have a little bit of shooting. We've got a total of 6 dice. The veterans inside the built-up area only get to roll 2 dice, 2d6 for shooting out. And that's going to be a grand total of 5 more hits. This unit just evaporates. The line goes down to 2. And it's not looking good for the Russians, is it, guys? Probably should have set that cannon up back here. This squadron running back and forth isn't doing anybody any good. It's after these guys get blasted, we have to move on to the charge phase. We still have this combat over here, and we still are both sides trying to charge on 4s. The Lancers get it. So the Lancers pile in here, and because they charged, they are going to get a extra. So normally, both sides are going to get, White Russians, both sides get 4d6. The Lancers get an extra 2d6 because they charged. And then, we haven't used these before, the Lancers roll an additional d6 on their initial charge. But if they lose this combat and they get pursued, then it'll be 4v4, and these guys have to re-roll 1 successful hit. Basically, they're at a disadvantage because without the use of their lances, they're useless. Everybody is hitting on 4s, which makes it very simple. The Austrians deliver 1 hit. The Russian Lancers, deliver 3. In melee, 3 hits causes a cavalry to withdraw and become disordered. So the cavalry are going to have to... Well, let me get my hit dice down there first, okay? So finally, something goes right for the Russians. It's going to be 3 there, 1 there. I guess I really should move them first. So they're going to have to fall back 4 inches. And that means kind of swinging around like this. Then the Lancers will pursue like so. The Lancers have just 1 hit and just have 1 hit. Come on now, you can do it. There we go. We just need to bump the camera. And then 3 there. Unfortunately for the Cossacks, that follow-up charge does cost them 1 hit point. So they are now reduced by 2. But they get to fight another round of combat. And because they're charging, I think they still get 7 dice to the 4 dice for these guys. However, because these guys are now disordered, the Austrians must re-roll 1 successful hit. So the Austrians here only got 1 hit, and they have to re-roll it. And they get no hits this time, where the Russians roll a total of 5 hits, which destroys this unit. A cavalry that destroys their unit has to move another 4 inches. I misspoke. The target, this unit does not have to charge unless there's another enemy unit in sight. The commander of the Austrians suffers a loss of 1 elan. Because the Austrian elan is 3, the Russian elan is 2, the Russians have to move first. So they are going to pivot this attack column like so. And they're going to bring this one around. Oh man, this is just not going to work for them. Because what are you gonna do? You can't charge anybody. These guys are all infantry. They'll just go to square. Likewise, The Austrians, you know, they're going to move like this, and they'll go up to their 2 inches, and they'll just wait. They can just keep these guys pinned. You know, in fact, you don't need to move to within 2. You can just hang out right here, and they've taken there too. But you just form square there, and these guys are in big trouble. So I think that's what I kind of think that's what we got to do, right? Our cavalry have to charge square in both instances before they even have a shot at that. I'm not even going to play this out. Let me show you what happens in one case, okay? These guys want to charge here, and because they have not, because these Austrian infantry have not moved, we're gonna put them in square. And again, I've only got 3 bases, so we use a 3-sided square. It's very non-Euclidean. What can I tell you? And then when the Cossacks do charge, well, I guess they got lances, so I guess they get the extra. But if we look at the modifiers for combat, it's going to be pretty ugly. The cavalry charging a square, I think it only rolls like 1 or 2 dice. Combat basics, cavalry, general effects, cavalry attacking infantry in square, roll 1d6 total. That's all you get. You're going to have to win 5 rounds of combat against a unit. Oh, no, by the way, every time you lose a round of combat, you have to withdraw. So you're doing that round of combat against a unit that is rolling 3d6 per side. Not only that, but remember our veteran unit is hitting on 3s, hitting on 1s for the Russians. So we get 3 hits to 1. And this is already up to 5 hits to 3. And because they did 5 hits, these guys retreat and they're disordered, and it's just that this game is over. I'm going to call it here. Now that we've seen how badly this is going to go for the cavalry, all the Russians have left are 2 cavalry versus 3 veteran line infantry. It's just not going to happen. I think this is an interesting example of how the rock, paper, scissors of Napoleonic battles works. Fundamentally, the absolute emperor game system, if you're just doing 1 corps versus 1 corps, is a skirmish game. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 units on one side. You know, there's the 3 line plus a cavalry, and then 4 units on the other side. That's it for your maneuver units. I mean, 5, if you can count 5 if you want to include the commander, who just kind of skates around the battlefield. And he does serve as an anchor. So yeah, we'll call it 5 on 5. But it really does play like a mass battle game. You have to think about the formations, and you have to think about, you know, distances and shooting versus charging. You have to think about, you know, strong points. And I think this game probably shines best when you've got 3 corps versus 3 corps and on a larger table. But even looking at a small case like this, where you've got a mixed force of mixed quality and the horse, foot, and guns going up against a strong infantry heavy unit with just enough cavalry to keep the enemy honest, I think we can all agree that this provides for some very interesting challenges and some very illustrative, how would you put that? Well, it's helping me understand the ins and outs and kind of the intricacies of Napoleonic warfare, and hopefully this video has helped you do the same. Until next time, I'm praying for you.